What's up, everyone? If you're new to this project, I've been camperizing this X-Work Van Sprinter into a road tripping machine. In this video, I'm going to walk through how I built the bed systems and the overhead cabinets. I used 5/8 birch plywood for all my cabinetry. I started building the boxes for the beds. They're about 6'2" and about 19 to 20 inches off the van's floor. I had to cut out the shape for the wheel well on the back side of the benches. It's easy for these projects to drag on and take forever, so you really got to think of little ways to improve efficiency. You can see here I'm cutting these sheets two at the same time. Not only is it going to have a identical result, but it's also going to take half the time. Lots of these things you can just kill yourself by taking so long to just do the same little task over and over again. You got to really overlook everything and say, how can I do that quicker? Because at first this is fun, but day 2, day 3, you're wishing it was over. So every single thing you do, gotta ask yourself, is this the best way? I designed this bed a bit different than my other van. This one, the sides would kind of come up higher and keep the cushions locked in between. When I would drive my other van, the cushions would always just go fly around and fall on the ground. This design made it so that everything kind of stayed closed and tight together. And it also works really good as an armrest. It does have a few disadvantages. I find I keep bashing stuff off them. I've chipped and dented them because they do stick out a little bit. So this is how I'm going to join all this plywood cabinetry. I've got a 5/8 router bit and a guide on the side of my router so I can set how deep and how far in I want my groove. Once I lay all these grooves out and I cut the corresponding pieces to the right size, all this will lock together quite nicely. All the joints will be pretty hidden into the groove. I can get a lot of glue in there. I think this is a really good way to connect these cabinets. So a couple things to keep in mind while you're framing your cabinets are the shapes of your van. For one, it's going to start rounding as you go up the walls of the van, so you got to kind of have a template and figure out what that angle is. Also, as you move from the back of the van to the front seats, the van gets kind of smaller, so it tapers about an inch. You have to find where you want to hide that to keep things straight. I find you can try your absolute best to keep everything straight and square and think about all the variables and, think you caught everything. But as the smaller detailed pieces start to come together, you start to realize what you forgot to account for. It's good to be able to find ways to feather and blend the discrepancies one way or another so that they're not all in one so obvious place. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's the best I can describe it. If there's a gap or an inconsistency or a void that, isn't even, you have to try to push it one way, have the gap kind of somewhere else, and cut tapered pieces, find different shapes to kind of hide it to the eye. I'm not sure if this is the best way to have done this, but I can kind of see I'm tapering the backside of these lids because the wall on the van isn't straight, so I hit it on the backside of this cabinet. But even still, the pieces that will go in between the beds, they're not straight or square. They're kind of unique, and I had to just trim them here or there so they'd fit really good. So I had these cabinets in and out a few times, just got them fitting perfect, back in, and fastened permanently. Or somewhat permanently. I took them out once more to stain them. But yeah, I thought they were looking great, so I started cutting the slats out. I would cut these channels throughout the bed slats just to save some weight on them and also allow some ventilation under the bed. So after I got those cut out, I moved on to framing my overhead cabinets. As you see, I have this little contraption made to try to find the plumb and level angle of the cabinet in relation to the top corner of my van. So once I found that, I moved on to cutting kind of the ends and the middles of these vertical supports. Once you have that piece made, you now know the width of the bottom and the face of your cabinet. You can make the lengths whatever you want to fit your van, and then you want to add these supports and kind of these dividers between cabinets to add some separation between them. There's really not a whole lot of pieces to these cabinets. There's the vertical dividers, the underside, the face, the doors, and then there's a strip along the top that gives you somewhere to mount the cabinets to the van ceiling. So there's just a lot of repetition going on, a lot of cutting of the same pieces over and over again, a lot of chances to make super small mistakes if you're not paying attention. So you just got to do what you got to do to stay clear-minded and just get it done as quick as you can, because again, this will take forever. So here are the two cabinets glued up, and I think they're looking pretty good. It is time to cut out some door faces and get mounting those. Now after we got those on, the cabinets were done and ready for finishing. So I quickly whipped up a box for my bed slats, which I'm going to mount on the rear door. The slats are a bit of an awkward size. There's not really a good place to put them. The spot between the bed and the door is completely dead and useless, so it's a great way to hide something in a spot that does not inconvenience another. Well, that was another full busy day. Now I'm cleaning up the shop and clearing away to get finishing tomorrow. I'm going to start wood filling everything and then move on to spraying. So my only suggestion when it comes to finishing is make sure all of your carpentry is done. Don't leave like one little cut or one little hole you need to drill till after. The sawdust it will make and just the switching gears is such a waste of time. So once you've done every piece you need to, move on to finishing. I filled all my holes with wood filler. A lot of the little voids or inconsistencies. It's just a great way to kind of blend this whole project together. After I was done that, I sanded everything, went from low grit to a higher one. Got to be careful around the edges. Don't round over the edges. Freestyle with the sander too much. You can do a little bit, but sometimes it gets a little carried away. And I just went over everything, just trying to get it done as quick as I can. And after that, grabbed the spray gun. I have a black satin stain. I hit everything with about 2 or 3 coats. I was in a huge rush. I didn't have the time to wait between coats, and the stuff never really dried. To this day, if I touch it, I kind of get a black stain on my finger. I need to probably go over it with some kind of varnish, but it's gotten my clothes dirty every time. It's like the cushions that are on it now, like they kind of have a bit of a black stain on it. It's a huge regret of mine. But I was out here fighting time. I put everything in wet, drove back home with the windows open because it was so hard to breathe in the van. It was not a great experience, and every time I look in there, I just think about how rushed the finish looks, and it looks pretty good when I'm putting it up here, but as soon as it dried out, it just went gray. It's really faded, but yeah, now we know for next time. I was super stoked to have this done. Now this van was campable. I used about 5 or 6 sheets of plywood, did this over 2 weekends, and just like that, we have a camper van. I spent about $600 on the cushions and covers with a zipper in them. Got some gas shocks, keep the cabinets up. They work great for storing clothes. They take up not a whole lot of headroom, and there's a lot of storage in there. Got my window covers that I've made that I keep in there. Got the magnet action, so got that instant blackout effect. Got storage underneath the beds on both sides. This one's just for miscellaneous, and on the other we have two 90 amp hour batteries, a little bit of a electrical setup just to run the fan and some lights. So these are 3-inch hard density foam, and they're very comfy to sleep on. I prefer it over the 4-inch medium density that I had in those denim cushions that you saw before. They're quite a bit heavier, they're floppier, they don't look as good, and I find they don't sleep as nice either. So for me, it's going to be 3-inch hard density. So yeah, I'd say it's looking pretty good in here. I'm not really sure what to do with the front area yet. I'm thinking of just putting a bench seat in it, maybe like a 2-seater. I was also thinking maybe getting a utility toolbox to put up against the wall. I'm just ready to sell this thing because I've got that nice new van to the left there, and I just want to camperize that thing. So I might paint the whole thing white and put a 2-seater bench in there and list her up for sale. I think it would be a great family ride. It's super reliable, even though this thing has 420,000 kilometers. You can see that fits pretty snug in there. Door closes as it should. Only thing I've kind of realized is that extra weight on the door. It might be a problem over time, kind of bouncing and all that, but luckily that box kind of sits right on the vinyl floor, so I don't think it's going to sag too much. I hope this video's helped you out. Thanks for sticking through it. Next, I'm going to have a video taking this van down to Oregon, so stay tuned for that. And as always, happy building.